Michael Pollan. To change a human mind. Certainly. Berkeley journalist, botany, rebel botanist. Great stuff, great stuff. I've been going through all of them. This is Your Mind on Plants. I'm a Carnegie Mellon degreed philosopher. Was a software consultant. 2 decades running payroll implementation software. That's why I'm in the Bay Area. I'm a bay down. I need your help. Write a little something about a 55-year-old who's experienced a massive physical body transformation. I got the pictures. Evaporated 150 pounds in the 15 months after turning 50. My mind on plants. My mind on plant consciousness. Oh, your constant awareness of not being anthropocentric does go awry on you. It's a very hard thing to do. It takes a philosophical method and some formal heuristics of evolutionary logic, plus love intertwined. Michael Pollan. Yeah, I'm kind of asking for a lot. I got a lot to give, especially. I just found out last night I was at the poetry reading here at the Carnegie Library. All the monthses, and it's Poetry Month, and it's also apparently simultaneously Autism and Parkinson's Month. I have adult onset autism, and of course this is the complementarity. I'm the discoverer, inventor, quantum physiology, which is very plant consciousness informed. Plants got bodies too. If they got bodies, they got minds. They do not necessarily have to have brains. That's just the point I was making to a biomechanist, which is really pretty famous and really very smart. And she hadn't really thought about whether her principles of movement have anything to say about consciousness, but they do. Mechanotransduction kind of explains it. Just it's right there. So, Michael, my mind was right this very moment on onions, lemons, and strawberries. I'm kind of cheating. Kind of cheating. Dukes, this is swell meat. I'm on some pork as well. Yeah, you won't find me. And the ochos, I'll be on some dark chocolate and coconut soon enough. Okay, what was that? The sponsors. And this is an actual modality to transmit all of this philosophical method and Socratic dialogue and all this kind of stuff. I've invented Socratic improv. So trying to get a web streaming deal from Netflix. For the series #BreakingBrilliant. Whereas those men made meth, this woman wakes wisdom. I'm the one that shouts. Mama says, knock you out. Don't call it a comeback. I'm Fresh Prince from scratch. Can you be an intellectual performer? I'm going out to Will and Jada Smith Family Foundation to improve the world. And that would be in conjunction with needing to talk to some people at Stanford, most especially neuroscientist David Eagleman and neuroendocrinologist Robert Sapolsky. Great article, is it not, for you? Who's this outlier outsider philosopher? Did she solve consciousness? How does she find somebody willing to listen to her? Did she solve consciousness? The plants have it. So my mind is literally not on pharma. 55, not on pharma. And only been exposed to perfectly legal, shelf-stable cannabis. Nothing else. Great documentary, Breaking Brilliant, right there. But I'm gonna tell you something. As much as I see all the things, and I'm happy with cannabis. Doors of Perception, Aldous Huxley. This is where we are. The reducing valve concept. So I went and read it for the first time after This Is Your Mind on Plants. And easily cannabis does for me that kind of mescaline-y stuff. Certainly. All the time. Endogenously. See, the thing is how, as a philosopher and all my biohacking, and I'm quite expert at it, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, you do the biohacking, journalistically, right? To get into how do you explain it in the zeitgeist, and I do it theoretically. How does all this make sense? And the reducing valve isn't it. What we currently call default consciousness, which is in the beta brainwave frequency, that is not default standard human consciousness. That is a program that's been implemented in us as we've been forced to become assembly line widgets. What cannabis does for certain, and I'm saying, whether or not we right now have the molecule overlap with all of the various different plant supplements. I really am against, first of all, peyote should be just for Native Americans. And I'm against, I would try mescaline, to try to film it, to create a documentary, to tell you philosophically what the experience as it's happening on demand. I know you've got notes and recordings and whatnot, but I'm willing to go to full video. And if you were to interview me, wow, again, you don't even have to be the sitter. I don't really need a sitter, to be perfectly honest. If it's a safe setting, nothing's going wrong with this brain. Nothing went wrong with this brain over 3 years of homelessness. That's why I need your help approaching Stanford. That's why, writing an article about it, getting it all together. And in exchange, I'm going to sit down with you and Judith and Tracy to talk about, if it is appropriate, to talk to Michael J. about my work with outthinkingparkinsons.com. You won't see me. It's a guy who had, with the 36, got early onset diagnosis in the UK. You scroll down to the bottom, you will see I have a copyright. outthinkingparkinsons.com. I don't even know if it's still online. Should check. Autism and Parkinson's are very similar. And here I am with lived experience as the globe's original consulting philosopher of quantum physiology, which is plant consciousness informed, trauma informed, embodied cognition informed, E equals MC squared. Relativity don't have shit to do with human functioning, but E equals MC squared does. So I call myself the she Einstein of consciousness. She's Sherlock of human functioning. Once you got a better definition of consciousness, you got to go and do the regression thinking. How does that affect all the rest of human functioning? And for things like chronic disease, for things like autism, well, that's a childhood development problem. I got adult onset. Parkinson's, that's some old guy in his 70s in a nursing home, and I got lived experience in the brain in a direct one-on-one relationship over just about a year with somebody with early onset Parkinson's who was on the other side of the ocean. So I didn't have to deal with the physicalness of his Parkinson's, but I dealt with the mentalness of it. I will not go off the cuff like this. I will not improv. I have a lot of respect for what Michael J. has accomplished. I want to be additive, not subtractive. But if it's a faulty and flawed biomarker to look at the substantia nigra as dopamine, because I mean, it's way in there. How is that? No, we're not looking at live brain substantia nigra dopamine quotients. It's all autopsy data. And the autopsy data came to be such a thing because of the, heroin or ecstasy, it was an overdose in the UK. And those people had the substantia nigra problem. But the dopamine in the substantia nigra might be the process of death. Not anyone living with Parkinson's has a problem. We don't have any data way in there in the substantia nigra on a living human. This is how philosophy starts thinking about things. Parkinson's and autism, my philosophical hypothesis goes. And where I have things to say about Parkinson's that I probably shouldn't have things to say about Parkinson's. But morbid obesity, of which I had from 1 to 51, it was all morbid obesity in my 50s. Brain. No standard diet or exercise. And I'm not mostly plants. You saw how long it took me. You know, I got a long-standing relationship with them Dukes. That's the only protein I really get here in the car. No money. The shelf-stable food bank stuff is poisonous to me. I have gluten. Pathologies, really. Fibromyalgia, put autism, fibromyalgia, Parkinson's. Throw them all together. We throw them all together and we look at them philosophically and all these symptoms match up. I'm telling you, morbid obesity is a Parkinsonism. Your ability to move, your ability to talk, your entire body is functioning differently when you're carrying 200 extra pounds. Which I did. I got up to 333 pounds. I'm probably optimally leg fit 133. carrying 200 extra pounds. This is very much like a body burdened with Parkinson's. It's a Parkinsonism, morbid obesity. No question about it. And you got all the essential tremor people, all the what's going on. There's a problem with this is an official phrase. It's a philosophical hypothesis, but this is the official phrase. There's a problem in the bioelectrical conductivity of the fascia. Now, Michael J. got lots of people on staff, and this is real innovative. She's Sherlocking. What I don't know is how to do the linear thinking that gets people to allow me to do the concentric thinking that my autistic neurotype lets me excel in. Final thing, so back to the reducing valve, Aldous Huxley. I think it comes up a lot, not just with you, but with many people. And in a certain way, we can see consciousness as this little window. Think about Terminator, and you've got those scenes where they've got all the different bells and whistles, the control panels, and you have more access to things. And that's the subconscious, all of the autonomic processing. So it's actually, as you get plant optimized, you get more. The density of what you can keep track of is greater. And what that is, I'm going to hypothesize. And there might be different physiological archetypes here, but for me, for certain, it's regular consciousness is a very reduced valve of haptic feeling data. As I get high, I get wide. I feel the density of what's my brain can handle and process. It becomes a lot, and the feelings are all accompanying. I know a lot of people talk about visual and auditory hallucinations and things like that. Never been anywhere near. I'm curious, to shroom it or whatever. When we can I want these filmed. I think to have this philosophical mind. Elder Savant. Can't find anyone, everyone wants to diagnose things bad and everything. But there is a Parkinson's personality, and there is an autistic personality. They're both body problems. We ain't going to get anywhere if we have the brain people trying to figure it out. And the brain is certainly implicated. There's no body-mind split. So the brain's part of it, but not autism, no fibromyalgia, no Parkinson's. Get started in the brain. Or really is brain malfunction that isn't then subsequently directly responsible to being attributed to connective tissue malfunctioning in the bioelectrical domain. I am trying to get to Stanford to talk about the philosophical hypothesis of bioelectromagnetism. This has been far too long. Do want to talk to you. Do want to work with you. I think for journalists, there's this big, Woodward and get a Pollen and a Gladwell on the case of solving consciousness and using it to unite us all in a global hive mind is one species. We are all African ancestrally, and we cannot solve any of these global climate problems in silos of races and genders and nations. Edinburgh proved that. Global hive mind, life-centric thinking, unites our minds with plant minds and animal minds. All the life got minds. We need new science. Kind of curious, right? We're so certain. Well, it just can't be any. We can't. The science says with a string and duct tape theory. Exploring the last 100 years of, I guess 120 years of physics. And you know, I haven't gotten to Schrodinger. I should. The Schrodinger cat guy wrote a book called What is Life? I should see if I could get to that. I mean, it will be very interesting to have that on film. What I'm saying is understand human functioning at a quantum level. It's random, highly, and we are choosing to self-impoverish our brainwaves into this little band of frequencies. What, like 15 to 24? I'm not. Beta, alpha, theta, delta. The brainwaves. The brainwaves. Let me, again, back to Parkinson's. Finish my Parkinson's case. I use tuning forks. Part of this to 150 pounds and fix all my childhood trauma to trauma. But it hurts. It plain old hurts. The tuning forks that I can hand to you and come meet you in Berkeley. You can come down to Monterey Bay. I'd like to talk to Dr. Walker, sleep lab. I haven't had sleep for 3 years. I live in my car. So, statistically, 80% of the time that I'm dropping into REM, somebody's slamming a car door, or driving by, or alarms going off. Or I'm literally scared to sleep. That what I do fall asleep, I'm in this one position. Is any wonder my body, brain. DBS. I'm not been stalking Michael J. I mean, you can't not have a friend with Parkinson's and not have some idea, and mostly of the foundation. I would assume by now he's got DBS. But I don't know. At Carnegie Mellon, the head of the neuroscience department did a webinar the summer I was there. I spent 7 months at Carnegie Mellon campus. I was left in the parking lot to die. And there was a collaboration between a woman who's working with people at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center on actual Parkinson's patients and one of the big data guys, a programmer. And they had discovered the DBS, the frequencies of DBS implanted in the patients of Parkinson's are tuning forks that I can. This is a weighted one. It just vibrates. It doesn't make much more sound than that. And this one that I just had to have here, it's actually 99 hertz. It's not a one tuned specifically to certain hertz. But 89 hertz, 144 hertz, somewhere in those in between there is you're going to find, I again had a friend with Parkinson's, early onset Parkinson's in the UK, met somebody on LinkedIn. Her husband had DBS installed, and in Britain he had the 10-year battery, big deal. Those 5-year batteries. And so not only do I have the hertz, but it turns out what they were doing is pulsing the hertz very always on. No, they weren't pulsing it. They were saying, here's 89 hertz. The brain and how all our neurons work is in pulses, is in, go through, jump, go through, jump, go through, jump. So you're going through all the axons and the dendrites, but then you're jumping through, right? And that's all charge potential. That's all vibrational, sound vibrational, electromagnetic waves. And that's why DBS works. So it took big data programmer to come back and to look at the thing to tell them to pulse the whole neuroscience departments and teams at Carnegie Mellon required. Something I could have told you in 30 seconds. I had no idea that it was such a steady pulse. That's just kind of ridiculous. And it's implanted in how many people's brains. And it does work some of the time, but didn't anybody else watch Penny Marshall's great movie? Only Oliver Sacks was still around. I wouldn't need your help, but he isn't. Help me find, and I think it's David Eagleman. We might as well start with him at Stanford, and maybe there's somebody on Berkeley campus. I actually have my GRE bag here somewhere. I'm also my earlier ones, what they are, SATs. Carnegie Mellon, Stanford, UC Berkeley. That's where I sent my things. I did get an accepted early decision to Carnegie Mellon, so I couldn't really try out these. And I had never been west of the Ohio, basically. West of sightlines of the Ohio. I lived just west of the Ohio River, so sightlines of Ohio. The reducing valve is what brings us into what we think is real life and why it doesn't match reality really well. It's a standard conception of everyday consciousness is a highly reduced valve. Altered states of consciousness. And go get any of the men, any of the leading figures on the Google. Dan Dennett, Doug Hofstadter, these are my people in the philosophy cognitive. You got Christoph Koch, who's Allen Brain Institute. These guys, too scared to bring up altered states of consciousness. How are we going to ever define consciousness if it's socially inappropriate to talk about the vast multiverses of trance? All right, harmony.